Let's just raise taxes. Let's just raise taxes. If you're making more,
there's a lot of other things you can do. You can also tax the benefits. So
we do tax the benefits now. If you make
but you can tax them at a higher level.
I'm all for raising taxes. I'm all for raising taxes. We just do it as an income tax. We just do it as an income.
That's different than a payroll tax.
We can do it.
Lifting the cap.
Let's raise income tax rates, and that takes care of it. I mean, in retirement, if you're making
already, they're not paying on it as ordinary income. So there's many breaks in there.
If you're making over if you're making over $25,000, if you're making over $50,000 in retirement, you're paying taxes on that, and half of that is Social Security benefits.
A whole lot of other, you used to not at all. So they changed that in the 80s. So you pay some taxes, but there's a lot of little, things that have been written in to the tax code because the senior lobby has always been very powerful. So there's lots of little breaks here, and the assumption that
I will join you in a call for raising income taxes, and I will call you for that means testing on the front end. I got no problem with that. It's the most efficient way of doing it. As every study I've read has said, we already means test Medicare Part B and D. And
good. We agree because there are a number of liberals I heard from them in the last couple of days who go with this old argument that if you apply means testing in various ways, that you undercut political support.
We can just do it by progressive taxation. Is the most effective means test in the world.
Good. Okay. Well, we agree. We agree. So means testing. So we can agree on the concept of means testing entitlements, and that takes us a long way to where we need to be.
I mean, it's a semantic argument, I guess. I mean, I think when you say, but either way, from a policy standpoint, but from a political standpoint, to call for cuts in future benefits now at the hopes of saving discretionary spending, I think the sequester has already proved that doesn't work. That's just not where the Republicans are. And if we can get to the point where we have a Democratic-controlled House and Senate and President, which is going to be the only way we can forestall at least a huge pressure to cut those discretionary spending, well, then we'll also be in a position to raise taxes.
Well, you don't know what they're going to get in return, so you've rejected the deal without knowing what it is.
Well, no, I haven't.
You don't know what the White House.
Doesn't matter what I do with the deal. It matters what the Republicans do. And
but you're assuming a bad deal on the part of the White House. Maybe they'll come up with a good deal.
Well, no, I'm just looking at what they're offering now and what the Republicans have done, and they've said no. I mean, the CPI is sitting on the front page of the White House. Means testing Medicare. It's on the White House website. I mean, they have. I think the Republicans have proven that
they don't care. They don't care about anything except cutting taxes. So, and anything that the Democrats propose is
And so it seems to me that politically speaking, I mean, that's ultimately what the argument is that we're not protecting discretionary spending by offering this. All we're doing is opening up another front in which they can cut, which is incredibly unpopular with the American public.
You're driving a wedge on the Republican side. I mean, if you're Obama, you're very smart to put entitlements on the table, because then you're calling their bluff and you're driving a wedge on the Republican side. So just because they haven't accepted the deal doesn't mean that it wasn't smart to offer it.
But to whom?
Listen. For Democrats to just dig in and say, "Oh, we're not going to offer anything," that doesn't get you very far.
Well,
especially if you want to get a lot of this behind you and deal with immigration.
If I'm running for the House in 2014, I want to look across my Republican opponent and says, that guy voted to cut your Medicare and Social Security because that's going to give me 5 to 10 points in the polls when I run against that guy. I mean, from a political standpoint.
Well, that's where you want it to come up for a vote.
What's that?
I mean,
well, the Democrats can't force it through a vote in the House. That's on the Republicans. Right? I mean, so at the end of the day, this is just whether or not the Republicans accept this. Whether, if I'm a Democrat in the House, there's absolutely no political benefit for me to do this, regardless of what my policy thinking is on it. I happen to believe and hope that those those Democrats also see that from a policy standpoint, it's a bad idea because, if anything, I mean, the number one cost of all these drivers is the cost of health care, not the cost of Medicare, but the cost of health care. And
but see, Sam, of course, that's just become a platitude at this point. But what you're not accepting is that if you go the kind of Grover Norquist of the left route and have people sign what amounts to a pledge, I will never cut benefits, that then makes it very hard for them to do means testing, because if you tax those benefits, a lot of people would define that as a cut, even though the only people getting cut would be the wealthy. So the Democrats just can't go down this road of imitating
I don't think that
Grover Norquist
Democratic constituencies would ever have a problem with their electeds imposing a higher taxes.
No, but what would happen is, just what you just suggested, the Republicans would say, "Oh, he pledged he wouldn't cut benefits, but then he voted for HR 19, which
it raises taxes on wealthy people."
But that has the effect of cutting their benefits.
Well, but I think that the American we've seen poll after poll that suggests that if that Republican steps up and says that Democratic guy raised taxes on the wealthy, I think that you're politically in a good position.
They'll say that guy raised taxes on seniors. That's what they'll say.
Well, you can raise it on everybody who just hits a certain wealth level.
Well, no, but they will just argue. I mean, so this is why all I'm saying is that signing these letters, we will never, ever, ever cut benefits. It sounds good. It's just a Grover Norquist of the left attitude. And Democrats
Except
need to get
80% of the American
hands.
public agrees with that sentiment, and not so with Grover Norquist. I mean, isn't that the problem with the Norquist pledge? Is that the American public is in favor of raising taxes?
The problem with the pledge is that it's a dumb idea, but the real problem with the pledge is that it's a pledge, and this is not rational policy making, and that's what I want to keep Democrats from locking themselves into things by saying never, ever, ever, and getting up on their soapboxes, and just try to deal with these long-term problems. Don't pretend that Social Security and Medicare are on a sustainable path just because they can find, some study that says so. That demographics are not subtle.
The only thing they're pledging is not to
people are living a lot longer, and
nobody's pledging to make nobody's
debatable.
pledging to make Medicare or Social Security unsustainable. What they're pledging to is not by making it sustainable, but not by doing it through cutting benefits. That's all. And so they have perfect flexibility to raise taxes on the wealthy.
Cutting benefits. Okay, so here's where we compromise. I need to go. Here's where you and I should compromise.
Okay.
The way these statements should read should not be, we are against cutting benefits. They can read, we are against cutting benefits for people who need them. If you add that, for people who need them, those 5 words should be in every Democratic document. Otherwise, these programs are unsustainable. They need to be for people who need them, not just the very poor. There are a lot of middle-class seniors who need these benefits to live on and to get by and to have decency, which is what what these programs were intended to. I don't need it, and I should get very little of it. And that's the concept that we need to start to get into people's heads.
I would be the first to be in line to raise your taxes, and think that everybody should, Jonathan.
But now you're talking about raising my taxes to pay,
for other people's Medicare. It's the same thing, except for
I'm
that
talking
way.
I'm talking about my. I mean, I think it would go down easier I am for lifting the caps, but since that's not going to happen, right? I mean, they could be maybe lifted a little bit. It's up to 113,000 this year. But what I would be more for is paying 90% tax on my Social Security benefets.
Well, I mean,
so I get a little tiny check.
I mean, look, money's fungible. If we raise your taxes back up to sort of pre-Clinton levels, then we will get that money. And
if that's the way
raising the cap is impossible, raising the cap is impossible. We certainly can't count on funding of discretionary spending. That's my.
I mean, we want to move away from the payroll tax anyway. It's a terribly regressive tax. But so
not if we raise
really,
the cap.
Well, what really should happen, I think, is that the means testing should be on your individual benefits, and we should have a principle that nobody
Jonathan,
over a
as a
certain
policy,
income level
on a policy level,
gets back more than they put in.
I have seen no data that suggests that if we were to do that, that we could actually, with building that apparatus. I'm looking at a study by the Center on Economic Policy Research that shows, at the very least for Social Security, if we means test, the net value of that, unless you start going into people who are making less than $40,000 a year in retirement, is virtually nil because of the cost of actually means testing. I mean, so from a policy standpoint, that does not put us on a sustainability path anyways. I mean, so that's the thing, is that, it's tough to draw the line between what is policy and what is politics in this situation. I just don't see the efficacy of either, frankly, but we will.
Yeah, well, the problem with your position, Sam, is you just want to kind of do nothing.
No, I want to raise the taxes.
That's kind of like Israel saying, yeah, the demographics are terrible. Yeah, we really should move to a two-state solution now, but the politics are just too daunting, so we're not going to do anything.
Well, no, I'm saying we should raise the taxes.
I know, but that's not happening right now.
Well, but I think
so we need
to the extent that we're not going to raise taxes is probably direct proportion to our ability to fund discretionary spending as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got to go.
I know.
It's been a wonderful
I've held
discussion.
You much longer.
Always great to talk to you.
I really appreciate you taking the time and going over. All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.